Hey, welcome back to another episode of Jake Talks Star Wars. Today, I want to talk a little bit about what I think the future of Star Wars is going to look like here in the next few years, based on just some stuff I've been reading online and my own personal thoughts and what I would do if I was King of the Forest, if I was in charge. So, if you watched the news video earlier this week, you saw that we are getting two Star Wars live action live action movies, not shows, movies in the next 2 years. We're getting Mandalorian and Grogu next summer, and then we're getting Star Wars Starfighter in the year 2027. So 2026, 2027, Star Wars is back in theaters, not online, not streaming, not beamed directly to your couch, in theaters, and that is exciting. However, I think what Disney has done, making the first Star Wars live action movie in 6 years be Mandalorian and Grogu, I think is genius. Because you have a whole generation of kids, including my kids, who've never seen Star Wars in theaters, who've never seen new Star Wars in theaters. For them, Star Wars, this whole generation of kids, for them, Star Wars is not a thing you go to the theaters and watch. It's a thing that you watch at your house on Friday night or on Tuesday night or whenever is convenient for you. So to get this new generation of fans who grew up with Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Kenobi, Ahsoka, Andor, to get this new generation of fans into the theaters, we got to give them something that they're familiar with. We got to give them Mandalorian and Grogu in theaters. So I think it's absolutely genius having them be the first movie back in theaters. I love it. However, I see a lot of talk online thinking, hey, is this it? Is this it for Star Wars? Is Star Wars going to be done with live action? Because you look at what Andor's done with their with how no how with all their notoriety, right? They got 2 seasons of television. They got 5 Emmys in season 2, including best writing. It's some of the best Star Wars ever put to screen, ever put on film. It's absolutely incredible. How do they follow that up? How do they follow that up? So that's the crux of it, And again, even though a series like Andor is like rewards bait, right? It's just bait for rewards. It's they're putting it out for to be art and all these kind of things. Where's the money being made on a show like Andor? Unfortunately, I don't think Disney has gotten the kind of return on the Star Wars live action series that they were hoping that they would get. Um, you look at how much the live action series cost to produce, and you look at how much they're driving, um, how much they're driving subscription costs or how much they're driving anything else. I'm not sure that we're going to continue to see the pace of Star Wars live action that we've seen the past few years, right? Past few years, we've had Mandalorian Grogu, we've had Ahsoka, Boba Fett, Kenobi, Andor, Skeleton Crew, Acolyte. We've had a lot of live action Star Wars the past few years, and not all of it has been as successful as Disney would have hoped. I personally think it's all good. I think all flavors of Star Wars are good. I think Star Wars is big enough for everybody to have something they enjoy, but not all of it has been as successful as people would have hoped for whatever reason, right? But you look at budgets, you look at how much money they're spending, and then you look at movies and how much money they spend on movies. Um, so this is something that has been kind of rattling around in my head the past couple of weeks, and I think it makes sense for Disney to start shifting away from live action streaming, or pardon me, from live action movies for their or live action shows for their streaming services. I think it makes sense for them to switch from that to movies for release in theaters, even if they're limited releases, right? Even if they know they're only going to be releasing it for a month or two and then throwing it on Disney Plus. Um, I think that makes a lot more sense for them financially. So to illustrate my point, the lowest grossing Star Wars movie ever that I could find. Lowest grossing live action Star Wars movie was Solo, a Star Wars story. Now, Solo grossed $392 million on a $250 million budget. So it did not blow its budget out of the water, even though it technically made more than it cost. They still consider it kind of a flop for what it is. Now, I've got my beef with how they released Solo. They released it right after Infinity War. It was competing against another movie from the same studio. I have my own beefs with that. It was just 6 months after Last Jedi that people were still kind of irked with Last Jedi. It felt like a lot of Star Wars all at once. I think Solo would have benefited for waiting another summer. I think Solo might have benefited even from going on later that year, but they wanted it for a summer release, for a May release, which that's what Solo is a popcorn movie. It's not an earth-shattering, change your life type of movie. It's a popcorn movie. And that's where its strength is. If you go into Solo expecting that, you're going to be happy. But we'll talk about that some other time. So my point is, Solo, $392 million on a $250 million budget. Technically, it made money, even though not as much as they wanted it to. Look at all the series. You look at Acolyte. You look at season 3 of Mandalorian. Acolyte cost $230 million. You look at season 3 of Mandalorian, $120 million. Kenobi, $90 million. Book of Boba Fett, $100 million. Skeleton Crew, $136 million. Ahsoka, $100 million. Right? So you look at all these series of television that cost the same as a movie, right? Cost less than a movie, right? But a lot of them, specifically Kenobi, specifically Book of Boba Fett, even Skeleton Crew, and maybe even Acolyte, could have all been reworked into a series of into a movie instead of a series of television. Especially Kenobi. Kenobi, I think, was originally a movie, and they drew it out into 6 episodes worth of TV. But my hypothetical question is, on what planet are any of these shows released as a movie, as a 2-hour movie rather than a 10-hour series? On what planet do any of these shows make less than $400 million in the theaters? I don't think that planet exists. I don't think it happens. I think if any of these shows had been released as movies, they would have done very well. I think they would have done, at least made their budget back, at least doubled their money, and then still ended up on Disney Plus within 6 or 8 months. So that is where how I feel with those movies, and with the past of Disney streaming. The future of Disney streaming, I think, is going to be less live action Star Wars. I hate to say it. I think that we are going to be seeing more movies and have Star Wars back in theaters, have Star Wars be an event again. It's going to take some doing to retrain this generation who is used to seeing Star Wars in their living room, to train them to go to theaters to see Star Wars. I think it's going to take some doing, but I think that's the way forward. Are we still going to get live action series? I hope so. I hope maybe instead of 2 a year, we get 1 a year. I hope that the producers, I hope that the powers that be look at how successful Andor was, how critically successful Andor was, and choose to continue to support stories like that. In addition to supporting the more pulpy, mainline stuff like Mandalorian or Ahsoka or whatever that Favreau and Filoni are doing, right? I hope they continue to support that while also continuing to support the more, what's the word I want to use? More serious versions of Star Wars. So I think there's room for both, but just looking at the cost of these series and looking at the potential for money to be made in theaters, I think the golden age of Star Wars streaming is done. And I think we're headed into a universe where we're going to see Star Wars back in theaters in a big way. Maybe once a year, hopefully once a year in theaters. And I think what we're going to end up seeing is Star Wars in theaters once a year, and maybe a live action series once a year if we're lucky. Hopefully that's what we see. I would love to continue to see more animated series as well. but I really do miss the long form storytelling that we had back when we had proper series of television. Not just 8 or 10 episodes, but 16 to 20 episodes a season, where half the year is watching your show once a week. I think I miss that, and I hope